All right, good morning, everyone. In this session, we are going to be looking at the Android build structure, right? So, and that implies or that entails the entire when you create a new project in Android Studio, right? The different files and folders. What do they do? What does each file stands for, and what is the function of each file and folder? That's what build structure entails. So we have everything here listed here and explained. But let's just look at the Android Studio interface. So when you create a new project in Android Studio, this is what you have essentially, right? Or let's just create a new project. Let's let's close this one. We have one that is existing. Okay, let's create a new project. So we have new Flutter project because um, we have downloaded the Flutter plugin. So that's why we have this option here. But we're not creating a Flutter project. We are creating project, a new Android project. So just click on empty activity and next. As usual, we give the project a name. Right now, the convention is that when you are naming a folder or a project, the first letter should be in capital or uppercase. So let's call this my test app. So the package name is autofilled. Then the location, it creates a folder called my test app on the desktop. Then we have the minimum SDK, which is Android 7. So any phone that uses Android 7 upwards will be able to make use or run this application. Then the build configuration. Now, Kotlin is recommended, just like I said in the previous video, right? So we have Kotlin and we have the Groovy DSL. Now, Kotlin is statically typed. Right. So essentially, the difference between the two is that they are different languages. Like, Groovy is a dynamically typed language on the JVM on Java Virtual Machine. Kotlin is statically typed, right? Kotlin is recommended because it's faster, and since we are making use of Kotlin, so it's essentially it makes it right faster to run our application, right? So you might wonder what is Gradle? What does Gradle stands for? So I'll be explaining that. But in the meantime, let's just look at the difference between this Kotlin and the Groovy DSS. So if I click on Kotlin, and I click on Finish, so it creates my application. So this is the application. It's currently so Android Studio is going to create all of the files that we need, right? Including the starter code, right? Which is just this simple Hello World app, right? That we can test just to confirm that our project is up and running. Okay, so if we look at now, since we selected the Kotlin DSL, so our Gradle is going to be saved at is going to be saved as build.gradle.kts because we are using Kotlin. Now, if we selected the Groovy DSL, it's going to be saved as build.gradle, right? So this is what we have, and so it's just the syntax that is different. Why the build.gradle is going to give us the compile SDK as 35. You can see the namespace, compile SDK, the minimum SDK, the target SDK, the version code, the version name. You can see there's no equal sign. It just uh, takes a variable and passes this to the variable without using the equal sign, right? And also, um, if you look at the way the dependencies are included here, we have implementation. So it's just a difference in the syntax. Sorry, the build.gradle. Okay, I guess it's still running. That's why, but we have build.gradle. So you can see there's an equal sign here. And you can see this uses curved. Sorry, what's this? Curved brackets. Right? Why this does not make use of curved brackets? It just passes the um, arguments or the parameters directly. So that's just what it is. Now, calling is faster. That's why it's highly recommended. So let me quickly close this. I just opened it just to show you the difference, just to show rather the difference between the Kotlin and the. So I can close this now. So this is what we just created in my test app. Now there are two ways to view your project. You either viewing it in Android mode or production or project mode. So either select project. Now project will give you all of the files, right? Including external libraries. You can see everything is included here, our uh, which makes this entire interface look a bit convoluted, right? So, but if you want to have a minimalistic view, just select Android. So Android will display only the relevant files, right, and hide every other files that you don't have to make changes to. So now, what is Gradle? Gradle is a build tool that Android Studio uses to put your app together, right? So just the illustration I can use is like a chef in a restaurant that you give your recipe to. So it takes all of the ingredients and transforms it into a tasty recipe, right? So that's just what Gradle does. So Gradle compiles your code, whether it's your Java code or your Kotlin code, processes resources, right? So your all of the resources, that's your XML, your images, your strings, it processes everything. They adds dependency. Now, what are dependencies? These dependencies are external functionalities, right, that you import. For example, let's say you want to add an additional functionality to your code. So instead of writing everything from the scratch, you can just, if there's a dependency that handles that, you can download that dependency. So that um, a dependency that you downloaded is going to add that functionality to your application. So that's what dependency is. So and you have, if you go to the build dot, you click on, if you're in Android view, to see all of your dependencies, just go to the Gradle script, click on the Gradle script, click on the build.gradle.kts module. So there are two build.gradle files. There's the one for the entire project, that's this project. Then there's the one for your application, that's this app that is within the project, right? Which is essentially your application, right? So because a project can have different modules, right? So but the main module is your application, right? So this is the project that houses your main application, right? Which is your app. Now you can have other modules, right? You can import a module rather, and so each of those module will have their own build.gradle file or build.gradle.kts file, right? But there's a build.gradle.kts file that takes care of the entire project. Then each module has its own build.gradle. So since this is our main application, so we click on this. So here we can see all of the dependencies, right? This is compose, graphics. So all of the dependencies are listed here, right? So if you are adding a new dependency, all you need to do is add it here, which we are going to talk about in the subsequent sessions, right? So this actually works with this. Now, this is a recent development. Initially, you don't need this libs.version.toml file. You don't actually need it. I think this started recently. Why? As in Android Studio made it compulsory to work with. So instead of just writing your dependencies directly here, right, you will need to specify the version in a separate file, right? So we'll look at this in the other sessions, not in this session, but this actually works with this. So you specify the dependency here and you specify the version of that dependency here, right? You can see all of our dependencies, all the libraries, the versions are included here, right? Okay, let me just select one as an example. So this is libs.androidx.core.kts. So if you come to this, so this is it, android core.ktx. right? So, and the version.reference is core.kts and is listed here. This is the version 1.17.0. So, like I said, we are going to treat this separately in a separate video. So, we have the settings.gradle.kts. Okay, so what this does is that if you are adding a new module to your your project, you might need to not you might you have to include it here. You have to tell, this is how you tell Android Studio that you have added a new module. So presently there's just one module, which is the your main application. So if you are adding a new module, you have to state it here, right? So okay, so let's just look at let's go to project view so that we can see. So we have the Gradle. You might, okay, let's just quickly go to this. Yeah. So we have the .gradle file. It's managed by Gradle and contains the downloaded Gradle distribution, project cache, and configuration file. Don't change files in this directory. So you don't have to touch this directory at all. Referring to this .gradle file. So move to the next one. We have the IDEA.IDEA. Don't make changes. Android Studio project metadata. So it stores metadata related to that project and it's used by Android Studio. So you don't have to make it. You don't have to make changes to it. Okay, we have talked about the build.gradle KTS, the project gradle.properties. Okay, so gradle.properties um, contains Gradle properties controlling Gradle build environments such as heap size. Okay, let's just quickly look at it. Gradle.properties. Okay, so essentially you might not be making changes to this as well, right? So we have the Gradle wrapper. Now, what this Gradle wrapper is actually a compilation of scripts, right? Is you might not make changes to it. You will use it, but you will not make changes to it, right? So this actually has several scripts, right, that tells Gradle what to do. For example, if build your you want to build your APK, right? All you need to do is just you type this in the terminal. You come to the terminal. I think the Gradle build something like this. So it will build your application and then compile it, right? So let me just quickly close this. So local.properties, this has to do with your local machine, right? And it's okay. Let me just quickly project structure, uh, SDK location. So this actually is this and this are doing the same thing, right? So this local.properties, this location is used for new projects and for existing projects. You don't have to that do not have a local.properties file. So they're actually the same thing, right? What we are doing here is that we are simply telling Android Studio that Android SDK that we downloaded as in the previous session, this is the location. It's located in user admin in the drive, user admin app data local Android SDK. That's where you find it. But it's just automatically created by Android Studio, so you can just leave it that way. We've talked about settings. Okay, so let's go back to this. Okay, we have talked about the Gradle wrapper, the Toml file. Okay, so the app itself, which we have explained this, build.gradle.kts, we have talked about this. Okay, then the um, source folder, src folder. So let's just quickly go to the Android view, right? So if you click on this column, so this manifest contains the Android manifest file. Now, Android manifest file is an XML file, and within inside this file, we are going to list out different permissions that our applications will use. For example, if our application is going to be using the internet, we are going to include it here, right? Okay, let me just quickly show you a proper. Let's open an existing project so that you understand how a proper Android manifest is. Open projects. So I will just open this Android DAV SDK in a new window. Okay, so I'm going to use the Android view. It's not displaying the Android view because it's still importing dependencies. But we can still make use of this. So I was looking for the Android manifest file. Okay, so let's go to source, main. Okay, so this is the Android manifest file. So you can see now, this is a proper Android manifest file. So in the manifest file, we are telling Android Studio that this application is going to be making use of the internet. You can see the permissions here. It's going to use the user's location, both the find location and course location, right? It's going to use notifications. It's going to use foreground service, that means while the app is in the uh, background, right? The certain features will still be running. So it's going to use the wake lock. So that's just essentially what we do with the, and we specify all of the activity. Now, most of these things we are going to look at them in the subsequent tutorials, but just for you to have a blanket understanding of what the Android manifest file does. So all of the different activities, like pages, activity is just like a page in our application. So they are going to be listed here, and all the services that we have created within our application, everything will be listed here in the Android manifest. As the name implies, it's a manifest, right? So it just contains list of different functionalities of our application. So that's that about that. So in this Kotlin, okay, let me just go to, because this Android view gives us like a shortcut, but let's make use of the project view. So now, to access these files, we go to the app, go to the source file, go to the main uh, folder, then we go to the Java folder. Now the rest folder is where we have our um, where we store our, what's it called, resource files, images, particularly the, what's it called, the launcher image, the launcher icons, then the other images and the files that are required for our application to run effectively. So, and also constants, right? Colors, strings, themes. So everything is included in the rest as resources. That's short for resources. So, but our code, the raw Kotlin code will be saved in this Java folder. So once we open the Java folder, we have our package name. If you can recall, when we created our application, the package name, right, is the name of the, we can just check. I think it's contained here. Nope, not this one. Okay, you know what? Let's just continue. So, uh, oh, my PC is low. So we have the main dot activity. So this is like a test app, hello world test app, that we can delete it and write our own code. All right. So now to the user interface. Now we use this to run this play button to run our application. Uh, this has to do with Gradle. It helps us to run our configurations that are stated in the Gradle files, right? So this helps us to synchronize our, if we, for example, if we add a new dependency, we have to synchronize it. So this is what essentially helps us to do that. This is settings. We can also find the settings here. You can see the settings here. Then this is essentially the same thing as this. This is to manage our devices, which we are going to treat in the next video. That's device manager, where we have our physical and our virtual device. Here we have a list of devices that are running. This is Gemini AI that is embedded in Android Studio. So we can refactor, we can use it to um, debug our code, refactor it, and make changes to it. This is for Flutter, and we have other Flutter dev tools as well. So this is the log card. So this displays the log of our application. While our application is running, this will show us the logs, right? If there's an error, it will be displayed here, right? So this is terminal, just similar to our command line interface. It's actually the same thing, right? Where we can write our codes, and then this is has to do with our version control system. So if you are using GitHub, oh sorry, if you are, of course, Git, uh, right? So this helps us to manage our code and create that connection between our code base and our version control system, like GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket, and the likes. Okay, I think that's all. Okay, so if you click on this, we also have other files, other options as well. But basically, what you'll be interacting with are these icons here and these icons here, right? So that will be all for now. So thank you very much. See you in the next video.